Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Leading Change. My name is Emma and I have Sam with me today. And I think that this is like the meeting of the TikTok minds coming together. Today, we're going to be talking specifically about Sam's journey with content online and what it's done to help support the insurance industry as well as her business. But before I get to all the questions that I've got for you, Sam, can you give everybody an introduction?
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be on here. So I'm Sam Bridgewell, or Lydon, going for a name change at the moment. I've been in insurance for 15 years now, and I started out in HR and then moved towards the learning and development side of the business before leaving to set up Empower Development 7 years ago. So I have an organisation where we train people across the insurance market on technical and soft skill topics. And with that, we do a lot of work to help young people discover careers in insurance and then help them find their way in to start their insurance careers.
So I'm super excited for this conversation because I think you and I actually first got connected through TikTok as opposed to through LinkedIn. And I love watching you and your team create content. But obviously, the first question for me and for a lot of people that might be like looking at TikTok as this means for creating content, is there benefit to you? And like, I guess what got you started in the direction of creating content? We'll start there.
Yeah, so the initial starting point was probably not really a thought out process. It was more of kind of that lockdown boredom, and that I think a lot of us were looking for things to do. Although kind of a lot of work going on, it felt like the novel thing to do on my phone at the same time. So I started making content initially for myself, just sort of following trends and so on. And then I thought maybe I'll make some videos that are a little bit more aligned to my job. So kind of giving out guidance that might be helpful for people. And I did one particular video, which was how I'd select, say, 6 graduates out of 800 applications. And it went viral overnight. That time it kind of hit about 500,000 views, I think, overnight. And I picked up about 7,000 followers just from that video. And it made me sort of stop and think, well, hold on, maybe I need to kind of think about how I'm using TikTok. Because I now had an audience of a lot of young people who were looking for a job and weren't sure really what those steps were. So then I decided to kind of niche down my content and make it all about that job search and making it easier for people to do their CV or interview skills, confidence, that type of thing that might support them. So that went on for a few months and I was being quite generic with it. These people hadn't followed me because I worked in insurance. They didn't necessarily even know I worked in insurance, but they all wanted to start their first job. And then I realized that was kind of probably a bit of a missed opportunity. Because for a long time before, I'd been going out to schools, universities, different places to try and promote insurance careers to young people. And now I had thousands of them on my phone and I realized I wasn't actually talking to them about insurance. So I decided to switch the page around and turned it into insurance TikTok, where we would talk about insurance careers and absolutely still help with CVs and job searching, but just making sure that was kind of tailored to spotlight the careers that we have available within the insurance industry. And then from there, it's kind of always had a little bit more purpose behind it to make sure that we're able to help more young people discover the careers that we have and also give them a place to ask questions or get support, regardless of what their initial network might look like.
And that scale, I think, is the part that like people hear about the big TikTokers that have millions of followers that get these views or like the really funny video that pops off and goes viral. But you had one that was helping people and you gained this like good chunk of followers all from one video. And I've had a similar experience talking about soft skills and transformation on TikTok. And people are often surprised that that type of content gets the focus that it does. And then there's also probably people that are watching this that in their minds, because I've had enough of these conversations where they say like, oh, cool, you get a lot of views, but what does that translate to? So can you share a little bit of maybe an anecdote or some of the information that you have about how you've been able to help people, those young people that are a part of your audience, make that transition directly into insurance?
Yeah, so we're now on about 30,000 followers. And for us, the goal isn't to have hundreds of thousands of followers at all. It's to have the people who really want the page, who want the type of content, to make sure we're getting that message out to really a target audience, and then hitting people that maybe haven't discovered it to give them that choice. But it really is working. Just last week, so we put on a networking event for people in their first job in insurance in the London market last Wednesday night. And there were about 70 people in that room, and 5 of them, certainly that I knew of, so 5 of them told me that they had found out about insurance because of the TikTok page. And as I go around at this time of year, especially, there's lots of people starting their graduate jobs. Every time I kind of have one of those conversations, I'm taking a photo of them, because I have these conversations every day. And I would guess there's around 200 to 300 people who have either found out about insurance through TikTok or have certainly used it to find their role or get ready for their job interviews, because we're able to sort of explain things in quite sort of normal language and bring things to life in a way that allows people to kind of really grasp it, where company websites can be really hard to understand if you don't work in insurance. They're not created for job seekers, they're created for clients. So if you don't speak the jargon or really understand what the products are, then that's not a great place to go to rehearse and practice for your interview. But TikTok absolutely can bring that to life. And with the voices of lots of people in the industry. So one of the things we really try and do is make sure it's not sort of just me that people are seeing, but actually you're seeing all these different people, all these different roles, just to show how connected all of it really is. And there are people, I think the first person that I knew of who got her job through TikTok, she's actually somebody who sent me her CV. I used to do live CVs sort of once every couple of weeks, review them on the page. And one of those individuals, she ended up working in insurance 3 years ago now. So she's now had a promotion. She's an assistant underwriter. So this has been going on for so long that we're almost kind of, the people we're talking about now, we're almost the next generation of them coming through. So it's had a huge impact. And I think it really brings people together as well, because it allows us to add a bit of personality, sense of humor, and storytelling to what we do in the industry as well.
You're humanizing insurance. I think that that's like the piece, I've had so many conversations with people about our talent gap and the need to bring more people in, and what do we do, and do we go to elementary schools to try and like teach people about insurance, when the answer is sitting right in front of us. But there's this weird like bias against this type of content, but it works. And it's so exciting to hear the outcomes that you have seen from like both the talent side, but then I also want to touch on like, what has creating this type of content done for you in your business, whether it's TikTok or LinkedIn? Like, what have you guys seen from that standpoint?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's all around familiarity. Hey, people buy from people. We've said that for a long, long time. But actually, when you feel like you know the person, you can make that purchasing decision and feel a lot more connected without actually meeting that person in 3D, if you like. So through TikTok, you see a lot of my personality. Hey, there's a lot out there for people to kind of get to know. And by the time you meet in person, that means that often there's a bit of a head start. That trust has already developed. There's also a bit of consensus there. You can see like how other people are supporting what we do. It's quite reassuring, I think, for people when they start working with us. But we've got a huge amount of work through LinkedIn in particular. I'd say we get more work from LinkedIn if you kind of compare the two. We have had work from TikTok. It always surprises me when it happens. And quite often I don't necessarily know that's where it's come from till I have a kind of conversation. And then further into the conversation, someone will say, actually, the first time I saw you, I was searching for insurance on TikTok and your bits came out. And then we sort of thought, oh, we'll go on your website and found it through there. So we have that happening a fair bit. But LinkedIn, without a doubt, is the most helpful resource for it. And there's two sides to that. It might be people discovering us on LinkedIn, seeing what we're doing. But I think for me more so, it's actually people just staying connected and staying aware of what I'm doing. So I've been in the market 15 years. I've got a lot of friends in the market and a lot of sort of colleagues that I've worked with years and years ago that I haven't seen in person for a long time. But if I see them in person very quickly, it's kind of, hi, how are you? It's kind of catching up. And it feels like we already are staying aware of what each other's up to because of LinkedIn. And that, for me, means that it's a bit more of a head start every time you meet somebody. You don't need to kind of start with oh, what are you doing now? What does all of that mean? There's already kind of this awareness of who you are and what you're doing. And that just creates these opportunities that I think otherwise you'd be at the back of somebody's mind. It just puts you to the front of it. And also, I think I like to be quite honest and open, quite vulnerable on posts where I think that's relevant as well, which makes things quite relatable. So we're not out there kind of, particularly in the topic that we're talking about, we're often training people, whether that's on career skills or technical skills. And I think a lot of the time you want to feel kind of really reassured that somebody might understand, or at least be understanding of your perspectives, different scenarios, and where we can do so much storytelling around that and sort of share our journeys and share the things that are going well, but also maybe the things that are maybe more embarrassing about what we do, whatever that might be. adding that bit of sense of humor, I think really allows people to connect with you and your business.
I agree with, like, especially adding the sense of humor and a little bit of your personality to things being so important from a business development standpoint. This is something that I talk about all the time. You start to attract the right clients when you show up as exactly who you are. And that authenticity definitely shines through in your content. I think I told you the last time that we talked, like, watching you interact with your team, I'm like, oh, I want to go work for her. And I can't because I'm in Wisconsin, but it definitely makes a difference from both, like, from a client perspective, making sure you're attracting people that are going to enjoy and value working with you, but then also from a recruitment standpoint, because you guys are growing a ton, I'm sure it helps you find the right talent from that perspective as well.
Yeah. So we've recently had 2 interns join the business who I think can definitely say get quite excited about the opportunity as they're coming into it, because they can see a little bit about what it is like. Behind the scenes is not even something that we kind of hashtag. That's just what we do. Okay? So you're always seeing what we're up to, whether that's particular team days or events where we're going out together or what that might be. And it allows people to feel kind of aware of how they're going to be able to kind of connect to the team and maybe the types of environment that they might be exposed to, and that passion and that fun that comes through from us, everyone that works in the team. It's kind of, it literally is on the job specs that you have to love insurance, right? That's what we have to do if you work for us, because we're there to kind of make that, spread that contagious kind of passion for the industry. So you don't have to love it when you're coming in, you don't know so much about it, but you certainly got to be at least curious enough to know that you're going to want to get excited about it. So I think that definitely helps us. And it also helps people settle in a lot quicker, because it's not like we're kind of all up there quite guarded. Everyone's quite open with each other to help each other welcome one another in.
Well, thank you so much for joining me for the conversation, Sam. And if anybody isn't already following her on LinkedIn or TikTok, make sure you make your way over there. There's lots of fun content, but also I learned stuff having not been in the seat of, most of the insurance operations. I've always been on the technology side. It's really good for me to see that content and get that perspective as well. But thank you so much for joining me, Sam, and for everybody for watching, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Leading Change. If you like what you saw, be sure to come back on a weekly basis and subscribe for more expert interviews focused on digital transformation, change management, and emerging technologies.